Hello everyone, it's Alex from Eureka Languages here, and today we'll answer the question, which is the easiest language to learn? Now, the regular viewers of my YouTube channel will know that I speak several languages. I speak 3 to mother tongue level, I'm fluent in 6, and I can get by and have basic conversational skills in another 20. Now, that may seem like a lot, but I actually have met people who can speak many more languages than me. And one of the questions that I get asked quite frequently is which is the easiest language to learn? Probably because these people think that, okay, I need to learn another foreign language, it's going to be good for school, it's going to help me find a job, it's going to make my CV look even better. So they want to pick a language that's reasonably easy to learn rather than spend half a year, a whole year on the language and then find that I'm really not getting anywhere and having to give up and get really frustrated after putting in all that hard work. So, which languages are easy to learn? Well, that's a very hard question to answer because you can ask 10 different people and get 10 different answers. It's just like asking someone, what's the best ice cream flavor in the world? And if you ask 10 people, you're going to get 10 different answers because it's all down to the individual. So in today's video, I am going to analyze 5 factors that will determine whether a language will be easy for you to learn. The first question you have to ask yourself is whether this language is closely related to one that you are already fluent in. Now, languages are classified into various different groups. You have the Latin Romance languages, the Germanic languages, the Slavic languages, the Celtic languages, the Semitic languages, and there are so many different groups. And if you can already speak one within that family, it's a lot easier to learn another one within that family. So for example, I speak French fluently. It made it very easy for me to learn other languages from within that Latin Romance language group, such as Italian, Spanish, Portuguese, Catalan, as well as Romanian. There are many similarities between these languages, especially when it comes to reading and writing. So for example, when I was in Romania, I found that, okay, conversational Romanian was difficult because they speak very quickly and the sound of Romanian is very different from French. But when you actually try to read a sign on the streets in Romanian, it's actually remarkably close to French or Italian. So obviously, if you pick a language that is already closely related to one that you already speak, then it's going to come across as rather familiar. You will be able to recognize a lot of words very quickly with very little effort. And conversely, if you were to pick a language that is not at all related to one that you already speak, everything is going to be very foreign, very different, very unfamiliar, and you are in fact starting from scratch, building up a vocabulary from nothing, and it's going to take a lot more effort and a lot more time. Now, the next factor is the presence of loanwords. Now, the definition of a loanword is essentially using a word from another language rather than having to invent one yourself. A great example is the word computer. Now, a computer is a fairly modern invention. So 200 years ago, nobody knew what a computer was. And various cultures, various countries have actually come up with words for computer. So in Mandarin, for example, the word for computer is 电脑. It means electronic brain, which is a pretty clever compound word. But if you look at languages like Italian and Korean, for example, they use the loan word computer from English because, okay, everybody knows exactly what a computer is. But if you were to look at the French, they came up with the word ordinateur because the French hate using loanwords from English, especially from English. They will use loanwords from other languages, but not English. Jamais! And if you were to look at the statistics for loanwords in certain languages, it is actually quite astonishing. In Korean, for example, between 60 to 70% of their vocabulary actually comes from Chinese. So if you are already fluent in Mandarin, Korean is actually fairly easy to learn if you can get your head around the crazy Korean grammar structure. Now, the third factor is the sounds of the language. For monolingual English speakers, they usually find foreign sounds used in other languages especially challenging. I'm going to use Welsh as an example because it has some of the most interesting sounds not used in English. So the double L sound like in the place name Llanelli. It's beautiful because it is not found in any other language. The Welsh double L is unique. And then there's also the Welsh CH, like chwech for the number 6. Chwech. Ooh, isn't that guttural? Oh yes, and they like to roll their R's in Welsh, but that's also found in other languages like Italian, Czech, and Finnish as well. Mandarin is also a language which poses a huge challenge for native English speakers. There are several consonant sounds which are not found in English, but also it is a tonal language. So a lot of British people struggle to learn Mandarin because they can't hear the subtle differences between the different tones in Mandarin. So if you can't even hear the difference, how are you going to reproduce the sounds of the different tones? And the fourth factor that you have to consider is how confusing the grammar is. Now, English is one of the languages which uses the subject-verb-object word order in sentences. So here's a simple example for you. I want ice cream. So if you were to look at a few other languages, they actually use the same word order as English. I want ice cream. SVO. In Russian, Я хочу мороженое. In Welsh, Dwi'n moyn hefyd. In Malay, Saya mau ice cream. In Mandarin, 我要冰淇淋. In French, Je veux du glace. In Spanish, Yo quiero helado. In Dutch, Ik wil ice. In Portuguese, Eu quero sorvete. So you get the idea, but there are some languages which do not follow the SVO word order. They are in the minority. So when you have to deal with rearranging the word order in a sentence as simple as I want ice cream, it involves a lot of mental gymnastics just to express the most simple ideas. So actually, I was in Hungary quite recently, and Hungarian is one of those languages which do not follow SVO. So when I wanted to buy an ice cream, I had to say egy potlaut kérek, which is one ice cream I want. So that's no longer SVO, that's more like OSV. Well, we don't even say I when we make such a sentence because it is already implied that I want the ice cream in the way kérek is conjugated. So it's more like OV without the S. So you can see why Hungarian is very confusing and a very hard language to learn. Languages with fairly straightforward grammar structures include Bahasa Indonesia, Malay, Mandarin, as well as French, Spanish, Italian, anything in the Latin group. And the ones which are really confusing and difficult are any Germanic languages. Dutch is especially crazy. But don't even get me started. Icelandic is the worst. And then you have the Slavic languages, of which Polish is undoubtedly the most difficult, but really any Slavic language will have a very difficult grammar structure for you to learn. In Korean and Japanese, I think Japanese is slightly easier than Korean. I tried learning Korean because I thought given the number of loanwords from Chinese, I can breeze through Korean. I was so wrong. I just simply couldn't get my head around Korean grammar. I had to admit defeat. And the last factor, of course, is the writing system. Now, for English speakers, any language with an alphabet, and I'm including languages like Russian, which uses the Cyrillic alphabet, if you can write out your words with an alphabet that is easily memorized and learned, then at least reading and writing isn't such a pain. So by that token, the most complicated language in the world to read and write is Chinese, because of the way the language is made out of thousands and thousands and thousands of individual characters, and you have to memorize at least several thousand characters just to be able to get through a newspaper. And how do Chinese kids do it? They spend hours and hours, years and years and years at school just memorizing through rote learning those thousands and thousands of Chinese characters. I still have nightmares about having to try to memorize those characters when I was a child in school. It is a fucking horrible language to read and write in. And of course, a lot of white people will look at Chinese characters and go, ooh, that's so beautiful. It looks so romantic. It looks like a painting. And a lot of white people even like to get tattoos with Chinese characters. But I wonder how they would feel about the Chinese language if they had even tried to study it for 1 year. Now, other languages with complicated writing systems include Japanese, Thai, and really anything from the Indian subcontinent, and then there's Arabic, of course. And those languages are crazy difficult to read and write in. There are several Asian languages which are sensible enough to use an alphabet system, and that includes Vietnamese, Bahasa Indonesia, Tagalog, Malay, as well as Korean. Yes, in fact, Korean is very logical, very systematic, and they created their own Korean alphabet system, which makes Korean really easy to read and write. Now, that would make Korean an ideal Asian language to learn, if not for the fact that their grammar system is totally out of this world. This is by no means an exhaustive list. There are other factors which will determine how far you get in a language, how fast you'll pick it up, such as whether you have a good teacher, how motivated you are, and whether you have ample opportunities to practice your newfound language skills. And also, I believe that everyone's brain is unique, so your brain is going to click with some languages and not with others. So by all means, don't force it if you realize that you have simply no affinity with a certain language. Simply pick a different language which your brain has a greater affinity for. And if you want to find out which languages your brain will have an affinity for, go to eurekalanguages.com and try the test, and we will tell you for free what languages your brain is most suited for. Personally, the easiest languages for me were definitely French and Spanish. Now, I don't know why. Maybe it's because English is my first language and so French came quite easily. But by that token, I have always struggled with German. Even though I have worked in Germany, I need German for my work, and English is a Germanic language. But somehow my brain just doesn't click with German the way it's clicked with French, Spanish, Italian, and all the other Latin-based languages. And as for the hardest languages for me to learn, the list is pretty damn long. I think the ones that come to mind are Albanian, Polish, Arabic, Hungarian, Finnish. And as for the Asian languages, I found Thai and Korean especially difficult, but nothing beats Chinese in terms of the horrible writing system. So that's it from me on this topic. Which languages do you think are the easiest to learn? Leave a comment below and let's talk about it. Thank you very much for watching. Just to let you guys know, I'm going to be away from the end of August until the middle of September. I'm going to Puerto Rico, Florida, and the Dominican Republic. So I will catch you guys when I get back. Yeah? See ya.